The marketplace of Zephyr 7 hummed with a strange symphony of 1,000 alien voices. Elizabeth sat cross-legged on her worn blanket, her portable repair kit spread before her like a surgeon's instruments. She had been on this station for 3 months now, ever since the human refugee ship had docked here, its fuel reserves depleted and its passengers scattered across the commercial sectors looking for work. The Galactic Council had made it clear, humans were curiosities, nothing more. A species barely crawling into the stars, their homeworld still recovering from what the aliens called the Unification Wars. Here, among species who had mastered faster-than-light travel for millennia, humanity was tolerated but rarely respected. Elizabeth didn't mind. She had her hands, her tools, and her grandmother's stubborn spirit. If the universe wouldn't give humans respect, she'd earn it one repair at a time. A small figure approached her stall, barely reaching her knee. The creature resembled what ancient Earth might have called a cat, if cats had 6 legs, crystalline whiskers, and wore tiny magnetic boots. The Phylixians were a minor species, often overlooked in the grand politics of the Council. "Please," the small creature mewed, her translator rendering the sound into accented standard. "My boot's broken." Elizabeth smiled and gestured for the little one to sit. The Phylixian child, she couldn't have been more than 5 cycles old, lifted one tiny paw. The magnetic boot hung loose, its sole nearly separated from the upper portion. "Let me see, sweetheart," Elizabeth said softly, taking the delicate boot in her hands. The craftsmanship was exquisite but old, probably handed down through generations. These weren't just boots. They were a family heirloom. Behind her, unnoticed in the crowd, a tall figure in a hooded cloak paused. Jackson, chief security officer of the human delegation, had been tracking Elizabeth for the past hour, not because she was in danger, but because Ambassador Chen had specifically requested he keep an eye on their most stubbornly independent citizen. Jackson watched as Elizabeth worked, her fingers moving with practiced precision. She didn't use a molecular bonder like most repair techs. Instead, she pulled out needle and thread, actual thread, and began stitching the boot sole back to its upper with tiny, careful stitches. "Human techniques are so primitive," a Vaxorian merchant muttered nearby, his tentacles curling with disdain. Jackson's jaw tightened, but he remained silent. He'd learned that lesson the hard way. Elizabeth ignored the comment. She'd heard worse. Her focus remained on the small Phylixian whose large eyes watched every movement with fascination. "Why do you use that?" the child asked, pointing at the needle. "Because," Elizabeth explained, her voice patient, "sometimes the old ways are better. A molecular bond would be stronger, yes, but it would be rigid. This stitching, it flexes with your movement. It breathes. It will last longer and feel more comfortable." She worked for 20 minutes, her fingers never faltering. When she finished, she had not only reattached the sole but had reinforced the entire boot with an intricate pattern of stitching that actually enhanced its structure. "There you go, little one. Good as new. Better, even." The Phylixian child's eyes widened. How much credit?" Elizabeth shook her head. "No charge for children. But you have to promise me something." "What?" "When you grow up, you help someone else who needs it. That's the payment." The child's whiskers trembled with emotion. She threw her small arms around Elizabeth's hand, the largest part of the human she could reach, and then scampered off into the crowd. Jackson smiled despite himself. This was why Ambassador Chen worried about Elizabeth. She gave away more than she earned, helped more than she should, and never seemed to understand that in the galactic economy, kindness was a luxury most couldn't afford. What neither Jackson nor Elizabeth knew was that another figure had been watching the entire exchange. Dressed in the simple robes of a merchant, his true identity hidden by both cloth and deliberate obscurity, King Therax of the Phylixian realm had been conducting his annual tradition, walking among the common folk of various worlds, observing how the powerful treated the powerless. He had seen the child's distress. He had been about to intervene when the human woman had acted first. Therax approached Elizabeth's stall slowly, his aged eyes taking in every detail: the worn blanket, the old tools, the human's threadbare clothing that had been mended a dozen times. "You repaired my granddaughter's boots," he said simply. Elizabeth looked up, seeing only another customer. The little Phylixian. "Yes, sweet kid. Those boots were beautiful craftsmanship. They belong to my great-grandmother. They've been passed down for 7 generations. Elizabeth's eyes widened. I hope my repair was adequate. I did my best, but your best," Therax interrupted gently, "was extraordinary. May I ask why you charged nothing?" Elizabeth shrugged. She's a kid. Kids shouldn't have to worry about money. They should just be kids. Even though your own clothes are mended. Even though you clearly need the credits. Especially then, Elizabeth said firmly. "My grandmother used to say that the measure of a person isn't what they do when they have plenty. It's what they do when they have nothing." Jackson, still watching from his position in the crowd, noticed the old merchant's posture shift. There was something regal in the way he stood. Something that made Jackson's instincts suddenly scream a warning. Therax pulled back his hood slightly. Just enough for Elizabeth to see his face. She didn't recognize him. Why would she? The Phylixian king rarely appeared in public media. preferring to rule from behind advisors and representatives. But Jackson recognized him. His blood ran cold. "I am Therex," the old Phylixian said quietly, "and you have just rendered a service to the royal house that no amount of credits could purchase. You treated my granddaughter with dignity, kindness, and skill, expecting nothing in return." Elizabeth's face paled. "I want to know, Your Majesty." "Precisely," Therex said, a purr entering his voice. "You helped her because she needed help, not because of who she was. This is the quality the Galactic Council claims humans lack. They call your species aggressive, short-sighted, self-interested." He paused, his whiskers twitching with what might have been amusement. "They are fools." Jackson finally stepped forward, his security instincts overriding his desire to remain hidden. "Your Majesty, I apologize. I'm with the human delegation's security. We meant no disrespect." Therax waved a paw dismissively. "There is no disrespect in kindness, young human. Tell your Ambassador Chen that the Phylixian realm will be sponsoring humanity's petition for full council membership. After millennia of watching species claw and fight for every advantage, it's refreshing to meet one that still remembers compassion." He turned back to Elizabeth, who still looked stunned. "Keep your tools, human Elizabeth. Keep your old ways. The galaxy needs reminding that technology without heart is just machinery." He placed a small chip on her blanket. "This is not payment. Payment would insult what you've done. Consider it a sponsorship. For more repairs, for more kindness." As Therex disappeared into the crowd, his guards finally revealing themselves to escort him away, Jackson knelt beside Elizabeth. "Do you have any idea what you just did?" he asked, his voice a mixture of awe and exasperation. Elizabeth picked up the credit chip, her hands shaking slightly. The amount displayed made her gasp. I just fixed a little girl's shoes," she whispered. Jackson laughed, the sound full of pride. "No, Elizabeth, you just proved that humanity belongs among the stars, one stitch at a time." Above them the station's lights flickered and hummed, and somewhere in the vast diplomatic quarters Ambassador Chen received a message that would change humanity's future forever. But in that moment, in that small corner of a forgotten marketplace, Elizabeth simply folded her blanket and smiled. Sometimes, the smallest acts of kindness echo the loudest across the galaxy. Sometimes, the measure of a species isn't found in their weapons or their warships, but in the gentle hands of a woman who patches shoes for free. And sometimes, the king of a realm stands nearby, watching, and remembers why mercy matters more than might.